Hey Adam, how you doing today?
Very well, Jeffrey. Yourself?
I'm well, thank you. Well, on our previous episodes, we've discussed all kinds of strategy, and I guess it's time to finally address pricing strategy.
Yeah. So let's talk about pricing.
Yeah,
I always say, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm glad you asked. Uh, you know, Pricing is a really tough conversation to have the last couple of years, mostly because
It's
everything we're
always
taught.
been tough. It's
Well,
always been tough because with the pricing strategy, if we look at it, if a property sells really quickly, the owner's like, you underpriced my property.
sure.
If it sits on the market day after day, you overprice my property. So you have to kind of have this happy dance around pricing to get the property sold, to get your clients to Montana on time and to keep them happy, get the most amount of money. How do you bring it all together?
Well, look, when you've got a client that's got a motivation like moving to the Bison State, um, that's really a phenomenal endpoint, right? Because you can preface everything around that goal.
Mhm.
I find when I'm talking to people, if I don't understand their goals, I don't understand what they really want and their motivation anyway. So that's the
Exactly.
one. And my goal is always just to help them achieve theirs. I don't have my own independent goal here. Um, so that's number one. But number two, I'm kind of, frustrated sitting down in these conversations and saying your house is worth 1.2 all day long.
Yeah.
Here's what the comps say. Here's the data. Here's all my knowledge about years of knowing this neighborhood.
Mhm.
And somehow they say, no, Jeffrey, you're either selling it for 1.4 or we'll find someone else who will.
And they will. They'll find
And
somebody.
then we put it up for 1.4, and I'm like biting my fingernails off and taking and my cuticles, and the thing sells at 145 with 10 offers. Now that is a crazy market, and
Mhm.
that's what we've been in. The question is, are we still in that market?
You know,
Nice head nod and way of not saying anything, but I would submit that in some neighborhoods we are.
Mhm.
In some
In
neighborhoods we
some neighborhoods,
absolutely
we
are.
always
In
will
some
be.
homes we are.
Yeah.
So it depends on the home. It depends on the layout. If you've got 8 bedrooms, we all know it's tough to sell 8 bedrooms. But if you've got a 4 or 5 bedroom house in the, you know, golden rectangle, this is phenomenal, right? We want that. Especially these days where that fifth bedroom becomes a study or becomes a kids entertainment room or homework room, that sort of thing. So you've got to really know your inventory. You've got to really study your neighborhood.
Mhm.
And I'm even learning studying the comps that aren't really comps in your mind.
Yeah.
Because when you sit down with them and you show them the sheet and that address isn't on there, they go, well, what about the Jacobs? We
Yeah.
sold for 1.45. Why can't we get 1.45?
Mhm.
And I'm looking, I said, what's that? Aren't they like 2042? And you
Mhm.
go, yeah, that's on your sheet, Jeffrey. Where is it? Well, you know why it's on your sheet, because it has either more or less bedrooms or more bathrooms, or has something that you threw it out as a disqualifying
Mhm.
factor in the CMA study. So all these things complicate things. But I guess when we're shifting in a market, which a lot of the market is shifting right now.
Well, it's all every day it's going to be shifting on whether it's shifting up, shifting down, or shifting into neutral. There's something going to be going on, and we have to interpret the market. And that's why you're right. I look at the whole area and see what's going on in the whole city, and then what's going on in the neighborhood, and then what's going on with their comps to get an idea of what direction are we going. Not just looking at, oh, the past 3 months would have sold to kind of comp out a property, but no, looking at the bigger picture. What direction are we heading? Because if we're going up, well, how far above that increase do we price? If we know it's going up 2% each month, do I look at the comps and then add 2% and knowing that that's going to come up and meet it? Or do I price it right where it needs to be? And then we leave money on the table. And then also if the market's shifting downward, like if we notice that it's going down 2% each month, well, then do I lower it by 2% in hopes that the market, by the time we hit the market, it would have been there and we would sell? Or do we just keep chasing it down?
So we've been talking about an ascending market, which is a great problem to have.
Yeah.
I say it's a great problem to have because I don't believe you can price a house too low. And what that means is that if you're doing your job as a realtor and price discovery is occurring, which means that home is marketed in front of enough people that the price can be agreed upon,
Yeah.
then the price is, one person might make a crazy offer, but two people, you know what I mean? There will get the price up. I've had properties go for well over 100,000 over asking. And my goal is just to get a ton of people into the first open house. I want that first showing, that first week of showing to be like gangbusters. I want to have to bring in other people from my office to help deal with all the people coming in. I don't want to slow, hey, here we are. Here's our new house on the market. That's just my approach. How do you take it?
Well, so, okay, if we look at one example of my neighbors, they sold their place for 1.95 and the exact same place right next door was listed at 1.55.
Yeah.
Never sold. It actually expired and came off the market. So with saying that you can't underprice it, I think one of the main things that we need to pay attention to is what you had mentioned is, yeah, pricing it correctly, but then also marketing it correctly. I think nobody knew about that property.
No. And I think a lot of people just put in the MLS, put up a sign and pray. 3P marketing plan.
Yeah.
We can talk about what the fourth and fifth P is later, but let's talk about now in a declining market pricing strategy there. So I take the same approach.
Well, Jeffrey, even if like,
I'm going to go a little bit lower.
I think before we go to a declining market, what do you do? Because we talked about going up. What happens when we level off? Because then next we'll be going down. So if we're leveling off, what do you do?
Well, you don't necessarily, in New Orleans, we have reasons that we level off and we don't decline. We have Mardi Gras, which basically from Thanksgiving to Mardi Gras, if seasonality is in effect, which we're coming back to ordinary post-COVID time. You know, we normally see kind of the market going sideways many times, unless it's a very special home. We had a hurricane. We have extremely low inventory. We also have an extremely low number of buyers out there right now. There's definitely buyers that would come out the woodworking if they started to see some deals. We just don't like to put things on sale in New Orleans. We're very landlocked. God ain't making any more real estate between the lake and the river. It's just the way it is.
There's less of it.
Yeah. Well, there's levees, the Great Wall of New Orleans. But anyway, I would really start to think in the pricing to get people in the door. If I can't show it to you, if I can't talk to you about it, I can't get any feedback. You know, you've got to get people seeing the home. If you're not seeing any action in 2 weeks, you've got to start talking about pricing.
Yeah, you're drastically overpriced at that. Okay, so then really just kind of vibing out the market, but what do we do when it starts to decline then?
Well, I think you don't try to catch a falling knife.
Yeah.
Okay, I think what you try to do is if the market is here, you try to come and price about here.
Yeah.
And then get some people that think that's a deal and screw up all the people that are still priced up here and above.
Yeah.
Make that home look like the deal, and maybe it'll get enough activity that it'll get bid up.
You know, I've heard people complain that they're like, oh, you agents, all you have to do is price a property super low enough that anybody would want it. And, you know, what I've seen is that if we're interpreting the market correctly and we're pricing the property even just a little bit below the market, people are thinking that, oh, if it's priced below the market, the agents are driving the market down by lowering the price. However, what they don't look at is when it sells. Because when I see a property that's priced just a little under where it should be, well, then that's when we start making offers. So
Right.
even in a declining market, you can still get multiple offers, and then it'll end up selling where all the other ones thought they were going to sell, but are still on the market. So it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's underpricing, but it's not underselling, because they'll bid it up to where it needs to be.
Yeah. And you know where else you have to do this in every market? On your couple of streets, your immediate competitive set.
Mm-hmm.
Even in a appreciating market, what's for sale next door, a few streets over,
Yes.
that are great matches. I mean, if I'm selling a 3-bedroom, 3.5 bath, what are the 3-bedroom, 3.5 baths right around me in the, in that same neighborhood? I want
Yeah.
to know. And I probably want to bring that to my client's attention and price accordingly.
Exactly.
Because if I can get a little bit under and I'm better looking, I'm going to sell before that other person does.
Yeah. That's 100%.
And by I'm better looking, I mean the home is better
Looking
looking.
at the competition, looking at it through buyer's eyes, and
Exactly.
saying, if they're going to look at this, what else are they going to look at? Where would we put our price, knowing that we're going to be coming to the market, competing against these other properties? And if we price it right below where those other ones are, we're going to get more attention. We're going to get the offers, and then it's going to end up selling faster.
Yeah, get me on the phone with another agent. Let us do our job. Like, once we get people, once we kind of set a hook and we've got something on the line, let us reel it in. That's where we do our job.
I think that's the big thing, is negotiation. Pricing it right and having a great negotiator on the back end is what's going to make the difference between selling at a great price and on time.
Yeah, and not because we go and we knock people over the head with negotiations, but because we make sure it doesn't fall through. We bulletproof it. Right? We make sure that something silly doesn't kill a deal. And that's the biggest problem I see a lot of times. I want to go back to something you said. You talked about seeing it through the buyer's eyes.
Yeah.
When we're in a listing presentation, we're often fully pulled in to the seller's mentality. It's the seller moving to Montana. It's the seller that needs to get out of this. It's the seller that's got this gain in the website or in the equity of the home. It's the seller that blah, 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 blah. It's the seller that put in this great, Venetian plaster. It's, pick whatever you want. Okay. But you've got to reframe it when you're walking through on that tour of the home. Got to be through a buyer's eyes as an agent. And when I'm explaining challenges we're going to have, the seller frequently says, well, we did that because that is perfect for the way we, do blah, 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 blah every day. And I said, that is particular to you all. And it's, this was a great feature for y'all while you lived here for 10 years. But for the typical buyer of this home, that's going to be that's not a factor that raises value, or probably it might even detract a little bit in their mind. They might have to take that out more than likely.
Yeah.
And so we have to tread lightly, but we have to explain it and explain things through a buyer's eyes very carefully. Or sometimes we just need to be quiet and we need to make a mental note and we got to deal with it accordingly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because residential real estate runs on emotion.
It very much does. I know a lot of people want to try to deny that, but it really does.
I mean, I've had a client of mine walk in a kitchen and say that door in the kitchen, that second door in the kitchen, the outside, is worth 10 grand. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, it's a wood door. We could punch a hole and put a new door in pretty easily. I don't think that's worth 10 grand more. And she was looking at her morning, letting the dog out, watching the baby, how all these things were going to happen. She could see out windows and the single light in the door to make sure the dog's not getting in trouble outside. Like, there were all these little things. That is not a typical, that's always my example of how this is an irrational market. High emotion.
Yes.
We're humans. We're going to live here. These aren't investments. They end up being investments if it's done right. Okay. But ultimately, remember, it's where you're going to live. And if you get a good loan with an interest rate you can afford, and you're, you don't overbuy, you can just live there. It doesn't matter what the market does. Just pay out that 30-year loan.
Yeah.
Plan. That's plan whatever. C, I don't know. But that's what you do. Find a home. An investment is second.
Mhm.
And
All
yeah,
right.
we don't need to paint every wall purple, please.
All right. Well, and I guess you can see that you went with all white and I went with all black.
I think we went with,
You can even tell by our shirts. I'm wearing a black shirt. You're
gray
wearing
cabinets back there, and there's other choices of color in the house, but it's different.
Yeah.
That they're a little bit that push things a little bit, but black's definitely an in vogue color, and that looks very cool. I was just thinking, what are they going to say when all your shelving doesn't sell with the home and you take that away?
Oh, that's not going anywhere.
It's a fixed.
It's not, but it's not going anywhere.
But you're not moving it.
No.
Conveys with the home. Smart. When you're ready to write your purchase agreement, Adam, I'll be sure to put that on the first page. Okay. Well, pricing strategy in the books, I guess.
All right. We got it done. Well, it's been fun. And I guess I'll talk to you again next week.
Hey, we're really enjoying some of the emails and comments we're getting from our podcast.
Yeah.
My email is Doussan, Doussan @kw.com.
Mine is adam.stahura, STAHURA @kw.com.
And it's been fun reading some of the email and
I like the interaction of it. Yeah. Kind
Nice.
of opening up the conversation and learning a little bit more. And we'll have our email addresses. I think they're already in the
show notes. Yep.
Yeah, we'll make sure that it's in there. So you guys can definitely reach out to us with any ideas, questions, comments, concerns, any complaints. Just send directly to Jeffrey, and you don't have to copy me on those.
I take all the complaints. Adam takes all the bouquets.
Yeah.
All right. Have a great day. Another episode of For the Love of Real Estate. We appreciate you listening. Cheers.